Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can watch us on YouTube and Rumble while following us on Facebook, or find us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for past episodes, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe or follow today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Hello and welcome wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. This is Conscious Radio Network's The Seance Podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, please be sure to subscribe, like, share, and comment. And of course, don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Our guest today is Barbara With, an international peace activist, award-winning author, psychic channel, and co-author of Conflict Revolution, based on her work channeling Albert Einstein. Conflict Revolution offers a revolutionary approach to resolving conflicts of the psyche as a path to global peace. Barbara has authored 6 books on metaphysics, including the award-winning Imagining Einstein. He's currently on a world peace tour calling for a non-violent action to the end of the age of war. Let's welcome to the podcast, Barbara With. There you go.
Thank you so much, everyone. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you with us. So yes, war. What? It's like, come on. I thought that, moving into the age of Aquarius and the end of Kali Yuga, that this whole change, this whole shift in consciousness, or where do you think we're at? Do you think we're at the end? Do you think this is the what do you call that? The point where everything is colliding so it can get peaceful?
Yes, to the second. And one thing I learned in all of my years of doing this work, which I started actually channeling in 1987, so as a grandma age, I've learned that in my work, the microcosm and the macrocosm, which, you're dealing with Einstein from Afterlife, and he's giving us the unified field, is that I had a personal, and we all have had personal transformations, those of us who are awakening and doing this inner work and shadow work, and we had to go through a lot. We had to tear down all of the old identities and who we thought we were and the limitations, and we fought with ourselves and great conflict with our friends and family, and we come up on the other side of it sort of new and refined. And I think that's what the world's going through. I see a lot of hope right now. I do. I know it's grisly.
Yeah.
It's really
hard.
grisly.
Yeah. It's hard to see through this veil of change, of the incoming change, because it's like it doesn't seem to be getting any peacefuler or kind of dissolving. It just, I don't know, it's just like you said, it's just the collision of the two forces trying to decide, okay, which way I'm going to go.
Well, and I think what's helpful is to listen to the conversation. Like, it isn't the end all and be all. We're not back in the Garden of Eden, and there is still war. But when you listen to the conversations, especially I think the shift that's happening in the United States right now, which is, aside from what's actually going on, there's this whole new conversation about let's stop waging endless war. Yeah. And I have, as a peace activist for many, many, many years, to hear that bubbling up into the conversation is so optimistic, and all kinds of things. So you're hearing stuff bubble up about chemtrails, stuff that I've been worried about, and suddenly we're hearing it talk about in the mainstream. So there's a lot of ways to see the bigger picture just kind of by listening to how far we've come since the harmonic convergence.
Yeah, I see people kind of awakening to what was once, and not very long ago, was once called a conspiracy theory. People
Yes,
are like, wow. And like I said, it's now being talked about, brought up on all these other media networks globally.
it's crazy.
So, yeah.
And I just saw a report. I have a podcast I listen to, some guys in the UK who have been really, really good at like following what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. And they are not hyperbolic. They are not political. They're just grounded journalists. And they reported that this is the end of globalization
Mm,
around the world, that what is happening is this breakdown of this new world order that's being dissolved. And wow, it's rocky, but that's the
mhm.
path I think that we want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. We only hope for the best, you know.
Well, we can do more than that, but
Yes.
yes,
Yes. Pray.
that too.
Meditate the power of intention collectively.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My whole message.
Yeah. So, channeling Einstein in conflict revolution. Let's talk about. Well, let me bring up the book here. It's intriguing here. So, imagining Einstein: essays on M theory, world peace, and the science of compassion. Explain your direction in this book.
This was a book that I chose to do in 2005, and it was the 100-year anniversary of E equals MC squared.
Uh,
And in 1998, I channeled a book called The Party of 12, The Afterlife Interviews. And this was all very new to me. When I grew up with channeling, I was just like an antenna, like picking up stuff. And
yeah.
suddenly they were angels, and then there were, famous people. And how I got hooked up with Einstein is a really remarkable story. But when I got hooked up with him, when I was doing the interview for the first time of from Afterlife, I realized that this voice that I was channeling was the voice of all my readings.
Huh.
And I was like, wait a minute, what are you telling me? That all this time I've been channeling Einstein? I was just shocked. And yet, it's like I always tell people, if some wayward spirit came to you and tried to disguise themselves as your grandmother or someone that you knew,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be fooled because you know your grandmother.
Hmm.
So I knew this was this voice. So in 2005, I thought, I'm going to do this. I have no idea what he was going to say. I had no agenda for what I wanted to hear. I just thought, hey, I can talk to Einstein. It's the 100-year anniversary.
Yeah.
So I channeled several sessions, and then I sat down mostly in the editing process. And I imagined him here next to me.
Yeah.
And I use the term imagining because I still, honestly, Paul, I was still having a hard time coming out and saying, hey, I channel Einstein. It's like, so I thought, well, I'll just say it's like I'm just imagining I'm talking to him. And it became more important to me that you listen to what he was saying than if I was proving it was him.
Yeah.
So that's just my imagination. And you can tell me, and then we can have this discussion. And so that's why I picked that. And when it turned out, because I had no agenda when I did this book, that he was delivering to me his long sought after unified field theory that include what he calls the map of human consciousness, which is the whole structure for how our consciousness creates matter. And then he delivered what was, to me, is still one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard in my life, is a scientific quantifiable definition of compassion, capital C, as the fifth fundamental force. So it's the creative intelligence that uses the other four fundamental forces to impel the creation of the physical world one step at a time.
Yeah.
And that was a very shocking in many ways, because I'm a musician and a composer. That's how I started out. I wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah.
So I didn't have physics or math in my background. And he's telling me that not only is he telling me in this 2005 that the source with capital S,
Mhm.
is in the center of the earth, and that it operates like a black hole
Wow.
in creation. And when you see the map and you start to study all this information that's come through me over the decades, and you begin to see that, oh my gosh, this is the map of everything. I can put anything on this map. I can show you anything how it goes on this map. But in 2005, I was like a little crazy because I thought, are you telling me I have to go out there and tell the world that the source is in the center of the earth and it operates like a black hole? Am I going to get laughed off? I mean, it took a lot of resilience, I guess,
Yeah.
and trust. But since then, since 2005, it's been proven to be what it is.
Wow. Now, when you were getting all this information, did you ever have you ever consulted anybody that was into physics and kind of look this over and go, wow, you have something. You got something. This needs to be looked at scientifically.
Well, it's interesting because when you say that, I started out when I did Party of 12, and I had these 12 interviews, and one of them was Einstein.
Mhm.
And I thought, how am I going to even know? How am I going to even know this? Am I just making this up?
Yeah.
And so when I got this, at the time I was doing readings in person, and I was traveling around in different stores and such. And this client came in and he sat down, and I pushed the tape record. I thought I pushed the record button on the tape because we were going to record the reading, and I hadn't. And what I didn't know was I had a used tape. So you could hear, because it wasn't recording, you could very barely hear what was on it. And finally he said, I don't think you're recording. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I stopped and I hit record, word for word, 10 minutes of what they had said, exactly word for word. And I was shocked myself. That's a rare thing.
Yeah.
He was the science teacher. So he was the first one that started me sort of digging in. And then I had when I put this book out and I went on my book tour, and I was in Philadelphia, and I was supposed to do a metaphysical meetup, they called it. And I thought metaphysical, like, you and me and seances. And
Yeah.
no, these were amateur physicists, amateur chemists, amateur scientists who came to, and I get there, I'm kind of sitting in the back going, oh shoot, what have I done? And the physicist is talking about the latest in this, and the chemist in this, and then somebody finally goes, hey, can we hear from Barbara? And I get up and I have to basically say, okay, I'm not a scientist. I talk to dead people. I think I talked to Einstein. I'm not here to convince you of that, but will you listen to what I've got and tell me what you think?
Yeah.
They were blown away. I mean, the chemist was like, oh my gosh, the old model is 6 blah, blah, blahs to the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The physicist was like, so what you're saying is you're taking the 0-point energy theory and you're marrying it with this theory and that theory. And I was like, I don't know, am I?
Right. You're like, I'm not. He is. They are.
I'm just the steno, I'm just the secretary. Not really, but that's how I felt. And then I have to say, and this is leading up to the excitement of what's going on with this work right now, is last April, I submitted and then was invited to present a very, very tiny, tiny little piece at the Science of Consciousness conference in Arizona, University of Tucson, Arizona. 30 years they put on this far left brain physicists, astrophysicists, biologists coming to figure out what consciousness is. And over 30 years, it grew to the right brain. It grew to the Rumi poets and the psychologists and Deepak Chopra and meditation. Yeah. So I had a tiny little piece, but I got to spend a whole week talking to especially young astrophysicists, young gal astrophysicists who got it and were excited about it. And I left there saying, this is exactly what it is. And so I applied in Barcelona this summer is the next conference. And what's so beautiful is that it's the 70th anniversary of the Russell Einstein Manifesto, which was Einstein's last paper that was presented after he had passed away. And basically, it's a plea to world governments to resolve their conflicts peacefully because World War III will kill us all.
Yeah.
So I will be presenting my unified field theory to all of the world's top scientists in this field. Nisam Harriman and Deepak will be there, and all the scientists, just like I prayed for years. Put me in front of the scientists. Put me in front. On the 70th anniversary of the Russell Einstein Manifesto, on my, well, it's this year is my 70th anniversary, so it's my golden anniversary. And I'm just shocked that I won't be speaking on the 9th. July 9th is the 70th. I'll be on the 8th, but they're going to make some room for me to channel, and I'll get to deliver a message from Einstein to the scientists.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Man.
Of course.
They're going to be like, are they planning, you ought to stream it, like either stream it live or definitely record it.
I need to have a videographer, I think, with me somehow.
Yeah. There's plenty of cell phones out there.
It's true. People, hey, you, do me a favor. Here's $20 and some Prosecco.
Yeah. Oh, man. So let's see. Trying to think here. So I'm seeing that conflict revolution is trademarked. You trademarked it, registered trademark.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Because it isn't resolution at all.
Yeah. It's a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with what do you see happening? Well, by the time this broadcast, it'll be a little while, not too much of a distance span. I'm sure not much is going to be drastically changing over a month or so
after the event. Yes.
Yeah. What do you see happening, especially the duration of this year, 2025, moving in? I hear so many mixed emotions and mixed ideas of 2025 is going to be just loaded with conflict, and then we're easing out into a resolve of,
something,
all the conflicts. Yeah.
When we're resolving. I have a pretty unique view, I think, because of conflict revolution, that this process that I was taught early on, and me and my associates, the psychic sorority, put to the test among conflicts amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a theoretical thing that we got from channeling. It was instructions for us how to create this process. So I've been training this since 1999 in corporate settings and spiritual settings, but mostly the effect it has had on my own life has been I would probably be dead without it, but it also has allowed me to get to a place where I think we all want to get to, and that is where your whole inner world and your relationship to yourself is not determined by what's outside you.
Yeah.
It's about who you are, and it's about being responsible for yourself and learning how to self-love and engaging in life passionately and all those kinds of things. And conflict revolution has allowed me to go through, I would say my biggest challenge in life has been mental illness. Came from a very traumatized house, dissociation, etc. And so it's allowed me to completely unify my mental health in a way I never in my life thought I'd ever get to.
Yeah.
But I look at the world in the same way, and I see everyone right now is being challenged to understand their relationship to themselves. First and foremost, start with the basic. What is self-love? How do we take care of ourselves? What do we do with conflict? That's natural. Conflict is a natural part of creativity. How do we use it to be creative and to be regenerative and be peacemaking instead of being divisive? And I think conflict resolution is the answer to that. I know it is. And as I see the world, I'm more interactive. Like I believe we have this power to manifest, which we've all been experimenting with in our personal and microcosm. But now I'm experimenting with my energy of projecting the greater good, of projecting the compassion, of detaching and letting go, of being completely in my own energy, unified, and seeing what manifests around me when I do that.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable. It's
Yeah.
remarkable.
Moving inward, self-love, being authentic, being your authentic self, banishing the limiting beliefs, and connecting to spirit, our higher selves into spirit. Very important. Um, what um, without giving way too much details about the book, what are one, two, three, however many you want to name or describe? What were some of the things that Einstein kind of revealed when it comes to compassion and humanity?
He defined compassion with the capital C in a way that really shows us that this is what we're made of. If we ever doubt what is that energy, he has stepped up to say compassion with a capital C. And when he defines it, he's not talking about the traditional empathy and love and loving each other. He's talking on a strictly scientific level that this force, it has, if you know anything about, I didn't, but if you know anything about science and the four fundamental forces, you don't see them. There's
Yeah,
electromagnetics and gravity and strong nuclear force, but you can see their effect upon matter.
yeah,
And he says compassion has that sense. You can't see it, but it does three very vital things to create reality. And one is that it has this mysterious way of impelling out of the nothing, the 0 point. Compassion impels energy to take a step into 1 point, and like a compass that draws circles,
yeah,
it draws a electromagnetic domain around all of the mathematics that are eventually going to end up being your computer and your chair and everything in the physical world. And
yeah.
we call that a compilation of consciousness. So that's a compass action that energy takes. And the
Huh.
second thing it does is like a compass that aligns us to true north. Compassion aligns this compilation that's now, remember, in the center of the planet. We're all in the center of the planet like a petri dish.
Yeah.
It aligns us all to true north of the planet so that we're all on the same map.
Yeah.
And then when it sends from the center of the planet to the surface of the planet where our bodies are, there's this gravitational wave that gets sent. Compassion imbues every single piece of us with the understanding that innately that we're all one
Hmm.
organism. So that's close to the love, compassion part of it. But
Yeah.
these are far more about how science and energy operates than it is about the esoteric love.
Yeah. And I assume this theory too is nothing that was ever written down, ever published, ever thought of until his postmortem.
I would say yes, specifically as it's presented, all the pieces of it.
Yeah.
However, you will see everything in it. You'll see every philosophy. You'll see every structure. And even now, I'm not a scientist, but I try to keep my ear open to unified field theories. And as much as I sat through several presentations last year at the conference and was like, the dog and Peanuts when the like blah 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 blah, blah food blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, but the oh no, I forgot where I was going. Darn. Anyway, tell me the question again.
Um
It was the
Yeah, that.
Oh, it was never written down.
Yeah, it was never.
Yes,
It was never
it was.
written down,
It was
and I'm
never
assuming
written
that's
down.
probably why he I wouldn't say chose you, but it was like you were the next best thing. And it's like I got to reach out to somebody on the other side to kind of convey this information because the world is not going in the right place, and I need to get this information out.
And who else but Einstein could do that? Die, go to the afterlife, figure it all out, and then using, I think, what they learned in life. The whole party of 12 was around in the 20th century, and not all of them, but um, is that they needed to make sure, first of all, that there were three of us, because what they were about to do was going to be so taxing
Yeah.
to our psyches, and especially mine, and that we had everything that we needed to support each other so that we could document it in a way that was going to be scientific in its own way. So he did good, I think.
Wow. And and the stuff that I've read and heard throughout, through historical record and stuff, that not only Einstein but even Oppenheimer, they were furious about the work that they were doing. They were not for it. I wouldn't say they were forced into it, but aside from putting a gun to your head or being forced to it, they just did it. They worked on this science, and I heard that Einstein regretted it and made a public announcement that his regrets on even, with the theories of nuclear energy and even Oppenheimer himself.
Yes, I think Oppenheimer had the same kind of deep scar that Einstein did. And what happened with Einstein is during the First World War, when he was a young scientist, he was confronted with that when they were developing mustard gas.
Hmm.
And he refused. And he was furious at his best friend. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but his scientist colleague who went forward with it, saying that, this is going to save lives, and we're going to, imagine this and that. And Einstein couldn't do it. So all along the way, Einstein did exactly what he morally should have. And when he got to the end of his life, and maybe even in afterlife, because it's sort of a blur for me sometimes to know which is which, but is that he contemplated, should I have done this, which was inherently not evil. His E equals MC squared was inherently not something to be destructive, but it was taken that way. And so he struggled with this. Should I have done that? And of course I should have, because there were so many other things that came about, but this and that. So I think when we have that emotional attachment, when we pass away, it directs our afterlife activity.
Yeah. Yeah. Still on the same page, no pun intended, is I'm trying to wrap my head around how I'm going to say this, because I'm looking at it as so many different moving parts going on. It seems like if we had the technology that we were meant to have, such as all this technology that Nikola Tesla had been working on most of his life, that it's all been held secret and been weaponized, for don't want to name those because we don't know who they are other than, and if we had this technology, that it would be making our life, we would be in a much better place, that we wouldn't have all this conflict. We'd have the free energy. We wouldn't need to have a war. But instead, it's, the technology that's out there is just being utilized as weaponry and not for the greater good. What are your thoughts on that as far as this conflict revolution?
Conflict revolution is an esoteric activity that focuses us here on ourselves as the only one that's here.
Mm.
However, what I see happening as people are doing that, people are doing more shadow work, people are understanding this importance, I'm seeing the society and culture opening up just a little bit at a time. I just said the other day, never before have I ever seen so much information about alternative energy. I just came across the thing on X that was exactly what Einstein said is going to happen. There's going to be these little boxes that sit on our table, and it's all free energy. And I think what I get excited about is this whole push right now to stop fighting wars for oil. It's just the beginning of this push is going to allow that to happen, so that the guy who invented the car that ran on water,
Yeah.
who accidentally shot himself through the back of the head or whatever, because it happens to all of them. In fact, I did some readings in Copenhagen, I think in about 2010, and these two guys came in and they'd been in the oil industry, and they said, we have this thing and we've developed it, but darn, we're kind of scared about bringing it forward.
Yeah.
And they said to them, yeah, keep it under wraps. It's going to be a while. It will come. But, this is not the time. So I think it's changing. And once that starts to open up, it's all there. It is. It's not like we don't have these incredible ideas and inventions. It's we haven't been able to develop them.
Yeah. And, I mean, I've got some, I wouldn't say, sort of colleagues, friends, connections, in the system, so to speak, systems that we shall not name, that said that the technology that is available, that is been experimented on, reversed engineered from many different sources, that it is dangerous. It is dangerous, and it is dangerous technology, but it is, like you said, free energy, transportation, being able to bend space-time, moving from point A to point B without ever even moving, teleportation, which that's what it is, spacecraft. I think even Elon Musk mentioned something about this, but I also heard a physicist talking about this as far as thruster systems for these new spacecraft, that they use light, photonic energy.
Right.
It does take a little while to get the craft going, but once it's moving, it doesn't take any energy. You don't have to feed it energy in order to power the system. It's free energy.
It's so exciting.
Right? It's like, and I just sit back and going, when?
No,
right?
No.
Like, I was hoping, to, still be on this planet, in this dimension, and see it actually happening.
I bet you're going to. Because how old are you? You're young.
I just turned 48 a couple months ago.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're not young enough to be my son. So I think you are. I think we are. I have no doubt in my body. And one of the things that I'm doing in my own personal commitment to world peace, one person at a time, starting with myself, is this incredible focus to that visualization. I call it the 5D printer effect. Is that it's the manifestation, all this stuff we grew up with, The Secret and all this manifestation, but to really perfect it into this working for the intention to create for the greatest good, starting with myself and for the whole, and letting go of all the little yappity yap, bip, bip, bip kind of things that are going on, especially Republicans and Democrats right now want to just slap them all up and say, come on, you guys, let's get together.
Yeah.
And
let's work together, not against each other.
Yeah. And I feel like, now I've also been, since about 2011, I was a journalist, an investigative journalist and an activist, a water protector. And so I've been involved in political journalism and all of that stuff. And I think when we focus on making peace instead of being right, we have this incredible opportunity. Because if I went out there like I did for the early part of my activism, where I was right and my side was right, and we have to do this, and I've got virtue on my side. Now I go out going, let's unite. Let's see where our common ground is. Let's work together on these things. And there's a lot of people who are in deep emotional trauma because of what's been rained upon us with all of the propaganda and the MK Ultra and the news organization, all of that. So people need to heal. And I would much rather help them heal than have an argument about politics.
Yeah. We need to get rid of the sides, the left, the right, the up, the down. We have to get rid of that. We have to all come to the table and recognize we have a problem, recognize the problem, and all try to fix this, come up with solutions. But I think the other problem too is all these special interests. It's like we have these special interests. We have these groups, families, the elites, the cabal, these special interest groups that just wanna reign like the king over everything. And you see that being a culture. It seems like that culture is still around. It's like the monarchy. And it's like the monarchy's been gone for a long time. At least it seems like it is. But that ruler type class needs to just, and the world needs to be run and governed by the people. And that way we can all work together.
And what we do with conflict revolution, and this is the esoteric experiment that we do, we're asking people to be willing to go on this journey. It's like a thought experiment, is that everything is a projection from within us. All of that, all the elite, and we have this funny question when we start talking about, well, they're going to do this to us, and they've been doing this to us, and they're this and this, and then it's like, well, who are they? Who are they? Yeah. So in conflict revolution, we use that mirror to revolve and reflect back to our energy and our complex system, which is, as we kind of started out earlier, about how complex this system is. Mm-hmm. And we have a really clear roadmap. So we bring the system down to a very elementary way of how it operates and how we interact with it. And then we use those triggers outside us. So for example, like, who are they? When I start saying, oh, the elites are trying to, enslave us. All right, let's revolve that around. Who metaphorically in me is the elite? I'm going to say it's my ego, because my ego has been given the power of free will.
Yeah.
And when intuition, which is the voice of compassion inside us, impelling us to take this next step to create for the good of the whole, it gets into intellect, which is a completely different organ and it can say no. We can say no to our intuition. And that basically, I think if you're going to get it down to really the microcosmic level, is where Einstein says all the conflicts in the world originate. Because and compassion is never going to impel us to do something that's not ultimately going to be for the good of this whole system. And sometimes that doesn't look like you think it might. But so when I work it that way, I find, and I've been documenting this for a long time, but I don't have any official studies, but I see stuff manifest in the macrocosm. Huh. I see steps. It's like, what? We're talking about chemtrails? Florida's just banning chemtrails? Geoengineering? That's unheard of. So we have to take the little successes as the baby steps that they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes when I hear some of this stuff, I'm like, it's almost hard to believe. I'm like, wait, hold on a sec. I'm like, okay, banning of the chemtrails, geoengineering, not only that, but even was it 3D printed meat? like bioengineered meat, and they're printing meat, and the governor's like, nope, I'm not even allowing that in the state.
Oh,
Gone.
thank
No,
God.
no more sodium fluoride in the water. Well, not yet.
But it's kept.
City.
We've just up north in Wisconsin. They did a referendum in a little city called Ladysmith, and they got rid of the fluoride in the water. I mean, these are huge steps for those of us who 25 years ago were told, "What are you talking about? Fluoride is going to make your teeth bleed."
Right? Or it doesn't exist. It doesn't
Yeah,
exist. That
that's
doesn't.
like chemtrails. Yeah. So this is amazing. I'm really
Yeah.
excited.
Now, you think this is a lot to do too with the younger generation, Generation X, Generation Z, the millennials that are being, born into this world, a completely different generation, different spirit, an evolved spirit, to where they come into this world and they recognize that this is absolutely not right, and we need to change this.
And some of that, don't you think, is because they've been left with only so many choices, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing at this point, because when I grew up, there was a path. You went to school, you went to college, you got married, you had kids, you had a career too if you're a woman, and then you retired and whatever.
Yeah.
They don't have that. And I think that's kind of an advantage, as much as you can see the instability that it's also sort of, especially the young people who are struggling with identity issues.
Yeah.
It's like, what are they going to do? Because the government doesn't tell you what you are.
Yeah.
And so those are the challenges, though, that I think are really refining, as opposed to destroying. They're forcing us to be better people.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you see as the timeline, what do you think is the next big shift in the next year or 2 or 5 years? What do you see as something that's going to really be revolutionary? Like, wow, what? Aside from the smartphone. I mean, we remember when the smartphone came out. They were like, what? No.
Listen, when I started getting readings in high school, we didn't even have recording devices. So we had to take a person to take notes. But
Yeah.
I think that innovation is really going to explode. I think all the stuff that we've been talking about, energy, but I also think, like what we're seeing in as I'm watching what's going on with our government, uncovering what the structure is,
Yeah.
that when we undo that, whether it's the government or our own lives or our families, when we undo that, when we put that right and resolve our conflicts in here and find this peace and this self-love, innovation just happens. It's a natural part of creativity, and compassion is the creative intelligence that's actually creating the entire world. And look at the world without any of us inventing things. I mean,
Yeah.
who put the fins on fish? I mean, it's
Right.
the most incredible. And so I think in the next, here's my predictions for the next few years. There's going to be decided allies that are going to not be allies anymore in the way that they were. I personally think that the EU is probably breaking up. I think there's going to be new relationships with Russia and with all the some of the other world countries that were fighting are going to become allies. And I think on that basis, if we can just feel and breathe and remember who we really are, and remember how much power we have. We can think it, oh yeah, we're so powerful, but then our little minds are like, oh, you can't do that, or no, that's going to work. So the more we keep focused on working on ourselves and bringing this peace into ourselves and looking for that self-love within, we set the stage to be able to be those people who can influence the world in those innovative ways. I'm just so excited.
Yeah. Same here. It's just, yeah, I'm anxious. At the same time, impatient. You're like, keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, and you're like, oh, this is coming, this is coming, this is out. like the Medbeds. Sure, you're familiar with the Medbed technology.
I've heard a bit about them.
It's like I've seen some pictures, I've seen some videos, I've seen some documentation, and it's like it's so convincing. It's like, what? And it's like, no way. Like it's like something right out of a science fiction movie. Star Trek, basically. It's Star Trek technology. You got cancer, or you got this, or you got that. You go onto the bed, you lay on the thing closes, it scans your body, and at a molecular level, it heals you. It's like, okay.
Now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Now what are you going to do with your life?
Right?
Now that you're all healed and you don't have any cancer and you don't have any of that,
Yeah.
what are we going to do? What are we going to create?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm waiting for it.
But you know what else, just on that same topic, that's so impressive to me is kind of a different one, which is where they're finding out that, for example, ivermectin works on cancer. Oh, massive vitamin C works on measles. Oh, so there's all these little things that have always been there that are also returning.
Yeah, vitamin D, D3.
Saved my life.
B complex. Yeah. It's so important. And I think the last pandemic was something that it helped wake us up, for those who weren't asleep and going, whoa, wait a second, how is this even possible? Why in this day and age, how are we actually allowing this to happen as a collective? So.
And I totally believe now in retrospect that we had to just blow it up and let's deal with the truth. Here it is. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah. So before we wrap up the show, where can people find you?
Try me at barbarawith.com, and that's with like the preposition, like who is Barbara with? Oh, Barbara's with Paul. Oh, so Barbara with, and I would like to offer you and your readers, your listening, your audiences, a special. So if you go to barbarawith.com and go under my services and go to readings, if you order a half-hour reading, I will give you a full-hour reading. So it's sort of like half price, and just drop me a note out of the contacts and say, hey, I heard you on Paul's show and I'd like this special.
Awesome. And if people say, hey, the seance, I heard you on the seance podcast, and
yes,
make it easy. So before we go, what would you like to offer aside from that? What would you like to offer as a takeaway for our audience? Words of wisdom.
I'm going to give you the conflict revolution elevator speech. Okay. So 3 human dimensions, they do different things, just like your heart, your stomach, your kidney, intellect, intuition, emotion. The big takeaway, emotional energy is not intellectual energy. People think that you stay up all night thinking and you're feeling anxious and you're thinking. No, you're thinking. Approach emotion with your breath. It's so universal. Yeah. But the more that we can separate out the movement of emotion flowing through our body with whatever thoughts that are rambling around up here because we project so much, the more it's going to free our thoughts then too. They won't be fueled so much by emotion, and we can get in there and wrestle those wild horses. And then intuition is always the next most advantageous step for the good of the whole. So that's your homework. You get into a witness, pay attention to yourself, see how those factions of yourself work, and you will watch and be amazed.
Wow. Yeah. And and
he's got his homework.
Yep, I got the homework. Barbara, namaste, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. Namaste. I'll come back later after my big show in Barcelona.
Let us know. Yeah, let us know how it went. I plan on taking some trips in the near future. Like I said, the first one will be Mount Shasta And the next one, I was hoping Peru, but that's not going to be for another year or so.
Oh,
But I want to go to Europe. I want to go somewhere in Europe. Maybe all of it. I don't know. But I want to be part of something when I do some overseas traveling like that. I want to be part of a symposium or be going for business on behalf of this podcast and some of my own scientific research as well as a metaphysician. So,
well, good. I think that's a great idea. I'm there too. And Europe is a great place for it. I've been working over there since probably 2007, and it's
wow,
just wonderful.
wow, cool. Definitely keep us posted. And when you get back, yeah, you want to tell the story and keep us up to date on what happened here on the show. Well, welcome back, and maybe talk about the next stage of your work as well.
Yes, that'd be great. Thanks, Paul.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance. Until then, see you next time.